would you believe it's already time to look at the month ahead for March? And in astrological terms, that month, which is Pisces, has already been going for a little while. And some of the things showing in the chart for the month ahead have already begun to show themselves as well. Of course, the main focus right now is on the usual two things. The virus, now really we're talking about vaccine and vaccine rollout, and the Zondo Commission and corruption, and now we're kind of talking about Jacob Zuma and all the ramifications of that. And there are a few other things going on, but all of these things do show in terms of what's happening in South Africa's chart for the month of March. When we look at the challenging news, well, that's the ongoing crisis at the Zondo Commission. They've now requested a prison sentence for Jacob Zuma if he doesn't show up, and the question is that going to happen to him? What's going to happen to him? Well, remember, the problem that we have with the ministers in this country is that we don't have anything remotely like birth times for them, and for most of the details in our lives, that's the critical ingredient that astrologers need. But with big, powerful people, there's always a little bit of information that we can extract. And we've seen a lot of that with Cyril Ramaphosa's chart as well, which is also, of course, not a timed chart. So looking at Zuma, we can see that for the most part, the famous Teflon guy has Tefloned again. And the recent challenges which lie in his chart, and they do, have all passed their critical point. In many ways, he has gotten away with a lot of stuff, or at the very least, he truly feels that he has. All those T's that we've seen, T at Nkandla, some of which with his allies, and perhaps some members of government trying to persuade him or alert him or something like that, kind of reminds us of the P.W. Botha days. And like P.W. Botha, Zuma is kind of stuck in his complacency of he's done nothing wrong and actually no one can touch him. For now, to a large extent, he's actually right about that. Not that no one can touch him, but that there's still kind of nothing much that's actually going to happen for a little while. Perhaps by as early as later in this month, though, we will have news about what might be pursued against him, whether it's the 2-year prison sentence that the commission asks for, or at the very least some kind of intervention by the actual prosecuting authority rather than just the Zondo Commission themselves. So that is actually on the cards for Mr. Zuma, even though, agreed, he has Tefloned his way out of a lot of this so far, and he is way more in the clear than he ought to be eventually in his chart. In the next couple of months, there is still more coming to haunt him. But astrologically speaking, it looks like he is still sailing free, and we probably will see more T at Nkandla for one person or another as the month goes by. Looking at things in Mr. Ramaphosa's chart, well, on and off for months, I've already said the enemies that face him start building towards April of 2021, and we're nearly there now. This is March, and we're going to see the forces mounting against him. And this is probably, on the one hand, to do with the Zuma story, and on the other hand, the EFF and their ongoing campaign now to try and get his campaign funds spreadsheets revealed and see where all that money came from and where it went and all of that. And that does look like the enemies are strong. We know now, of course, that Ramaphosa faces a lot of enemies. Some of those enemies have made themselves clear. The ANC is, as usual, split into 2 camps, and that's part of the enemy story as well. And over these 2 months, it's looking scary. But quite frankly, already in March, it's beginning to get to that point. March looks very critical in terms of secrets being released, revealed, stuff coming out into the open. All that is there. That is what the EFF has been going for. So that is dangerous to Ramaphosa. Other stuff that comes into the open, of course, still has a lot to do with the Zondo Commission and perhaps corruption also in terms of dealing with the coronavirus crisis. All of that still looks like it's coming out. When we look at the chart about secrets coming out, a prevalent theme, as we know in South Africa's charts, we do see that this month it looks like a lot of damage is caused by those secrets, and that's why the Cyril Ramaphosa campaign has something to worry about, and perhaps some other people have something to worry about as well. Who knows? Maybe even Jacob Zuma himself, although doesn't seem to be what the charts are saying. The chart says expect some surprises, expect some strong reactions, expect some behind the scenes machinations. We won't use the word sedition in this country, but there certainly are forces working behind the government and against the government that are extremely dangerous. It's like hidden violence is being described in the chart, and secrets coming out which tend to provoke that in some way. So in the ongoing crisis in the governing party, in the efforts to get rid of the president, it looks like some mudslinging is to be expected, not only from within the party, but also, of course, the EFF, who've shown their alignment to the forces against Ramaphosa in his own party. Looking at the country itself, that's where we see, not at all unexpectedly, that the vaccination rollout is at the top of the schedule. The chart is a lot about health and public health, and it does look like gradually we are really going to get properly into the swing of it. It has started slowly, as we know, with a couple of problems and pitfalls, and it does look like it's still small and going to take quite a while to get to goals. All of that may be true, but it is important to know that over the course of this month and into the next one, things are going to pick up really well. That area of the chart is looking ever stronger. So it looks like that will get rolling and find its feet, and mostly things are going to work there for a while. It certainly looks for now that we are beginning to make a dent in that crisis. Not only is it good that the vaccine rollout is happening according to schedule, but the chart, in terms of talking about the health crisis, does talk about how this is going to lay the seeds for a very positive result. And in fact, we're also going to see positive reactions to South Africa, not the least of which is from, of course, our African allies. As you know, we are selling the AstraZeneca vaccines that we ended up with to other African countries who can use them, and that is not only good for our vaccine program to get the right vaccines in the end, but also for our international connections and our ultimate status to do with vaccine rollout on the continent of Africa and perhaps in the world. It does look like the world is looking at us. That is largely Africa, as I say, but also the larger world. As you know, the variant that was found in this country, V2, is strongly watched by the rest of the world as it tries to creep around the world and is worried about in terms of vaccines. So they are watching us closely. The chart shows South Africa in international eyes, and hopefully our government can handle that well. Watch out for late March where it doesn't look like it. It looks like there's some bumbling, some confusion, some mixed messages, or some, well, deception, which is not unusual here either, going out at that time. But later in the month just does look a little bit iffy. That's probably around about the middle of March that I'm talking about. And from then onwards in the last stages of March. But hopefully after that we can get back onto track, and as we'll see next month, things will probably look a little bit better again. But the eyes of the world are on us for lots of reasons. The good reasons, watching our vaccine rollout, and bad reasons as well, as wrong messages go out into the world. Nevertheless, it is an important time for us, and if the government can kind of hold it together and take advantage of the fact that the world is watching us under difficult circumstances, do this, perhaps we can correct a lot of mistakes that were made in the last year when the astrological conditions were not as favorable. As much as, you know, they had their great lockdown program, which turned out to be full of corruption, but somehow managed to do a lot of the right thing at the same time. That was a mixed chart that it was working with. This year, in terms of their rollouts, the chart is looking a lot better. They have the option to make it right this time. March is the critical month when we are doing it, when the world is watching us, when Africa is watching us and depending on us. And if we click into right this month, it's going to be a lasting and beneficial exercise. Could be a good time. Just watch out for those enemies, Mr. Ramaphosa, ANC, and the rest of you, because they can scupper us all. Government, the whole world is watching you now. Do the right thing. Looking at the month ahead for Aries, this looks like a crazier time than you expected. And what's crazy is that things aren't going according to plan, but they're still going pretty well. So you have to relax and allow whatever's going to happen because it's all full of surprises that are really going to work for you and could work very well for you. That means you've got to let go of your expectations, and most importantly, you've actually got to let go of some of the things that you were planning to have in place by the end of the month, because that ain't going to happen. In fact, what you need to be concentrating on during this month of March is kind of out with the old as much as possible. The in with the new is still coming. Some of it's on your plate already, but for the most part, you're not really going to be able to do all the new stuff that you wanted or expected on your plate. Concentrate on tying up loose ends, finishing unfinished business, identifying what's no longer useful, what the old actually is, so that you can eliminate it in the right way. There are some issues in your personal relationships that do need your attention. It looks like you're feeling angry or aggressive about something and you might not be addressing it. Get that out on the table before it creeps underneath somewhere and causes bigger problems for you. Now's the time to spit it out and let it go. Taurus, it's a get up and go in every possible way kind of month for you, and that would be great if it didn't also include the fact that you're going to have to rely on other people to make that really happen for you during this month. For the most part, anything you put on your plate and anything you go forward with is going to work as long as there is some either benefit for the group, the team, someone greater than you, or some input from them. You can afford to get a lot of help at this time. Unfortunately, it's looking on these charts that either you don't want to take it, or you're kind of stubbornly persistent on your own chart, or maybe looking at your projects and your world through blinkered eyes at the moment. You need to be more open-minded, and right now the best way to do that is to think of what is it that the group needs, what is it that the team needs, even what is it that the world needs. Always a good question to ask. You can fundamentally affect it right now by getting your stuff out there, but cooperation is the name of the game. Your heart's desire, the things that you really want and really need, that could be the most important things to you, could be the things which benefit not only you, but turn out to be meaningful to a whole bunch of other people as well. Now's that time. Gemini, it looks like old financial matters have come to haunt you. In some way, you're finding yourself back in a place where you thought or hoped that you were never going to be. And of course, it's just one of those cycles that comes round again. It looks like financial matters have been very up and down for the last little while, especially this year, and now they're very much on the down. That can mean there's old bills or old debts or things like that that need to be attended to, and this would be the time to attend to them. But it also can be that you're in a situation that there's almost nothing that you can do about, and that you're going to have to accept a little bit of help. That has started coming to you slowly in the course of the last few days. Just this last week, things have begun to shift, and you need to look towards ahead now to see where can you collect and where can you gain help in some way. There are people wanting to help from far away, or there are new or unusual sources of income that now is the time to plug into those and see some new options. But for the most part, your best bet is to lay low and be careful, not panic. Things are going to change. Things are going to look very different soon. But that also means you need to take a different approach in the future to where those resources are coming from, and of course where they're going to. Cancerians, you could also be dealing with stuff that you thought was done and that was behind you in some way, and people, things and old stuff coming back into your life is actually a great opportunity to consolidate and identify what's really important now. This is a month of kind of stepping back for you. You've been heavily active in your family in the last few months, your norm, but now is actually time to kind of pull into yourself, find the Cancerian shell and the Cancerian cave and all those places where you like to retreat to. It's time for some quality solo time. That can include also facing some things that you don't want to face, mostly because they seem trivial, boring or unnecessary. Can also include family members that you don't want to deal with that are not in your immediate family, but Don't let others stress you out at the moment. Remember, the main priority is to keep to yourself and your cave, and it's a focus on you. Even the old stuff that's coming back to haunt you might look scary at first, but actually you're in a much stronger position than you were the first time this stuff came around. So now's the perfect time to face it square on once for all and get it cleared up and put behind you. Leo, it looks like a lot of your existing plans have gone into the wind, but that doesn't mean nothing is going on in terms of your goals and your professional aspirations at all. Firstly, you need to get back to basics, be that your roots, be that your home, in some kind of a way. It looks like you've spread yourself too far and wide and thin in all directions, and it's not only about consolidation, but it really is about reconnecting with the roots, reconnecting with the base, everything that makes you who you are and where you come from. That's going to re-energize you to get your sense of direction, because it still is a great time to be concentrating on goals, and especially on rather different goals than you might have done before. It is time to get more personal, or to really show more of your softer, sensitive side in terms of the work, whether that's you in management or whether that's you doing your own thing in some kind of way. You know, Leos love being in complete control, which is great, but you also need to sometimes show that you're a bit more vulnerable. Now's the time, if in some way you can do that in your professional side, it will make you even stronger. It's an excellent time to be pursuing goals. Just don't forget to make that anchor really strong before you do. Virgos, you're not necessarily thought of as the most creative of the signs, although you really can be good at making a lot of stuff happen. But whatever creative means to you, whether it's artistic, whether it just means stuff is coming from you, it's your ideas going out into the world, this month of March is your creative time. You could be spending more of that time amongst people that you love, doing things that you love, and you should be, at the very least, doing it just because you love it. It's not a great time to be concentrating on what's really goal-oriented, ambition and driven about life, but much more about the quality of life that's fun and pleasurable, as well as the talents and skills and things that you love that have kind of been there all your life, but you haven't necessarily been making use of them. On the subject of love, it could be a great month for romance, for your existing relationships, and for those of you with children, also for your relationships with your children, or just a great month for your children. In all areas of your life, it's time to broaden your mind, to take a different approach, to not be so goal-oriented and rather to be more process-oriented, and to ask yourself the question, in what way is this process creative? How am I making use of my skills to impact my world? Libra, it looks like you're right in the thick of it this month, getting caught up in other people's projects and how you can help, and even maybe voluntary work of some kind, and it's a great time to be doing that. Of course, those of you in any health services, in the medical professions, are going to get caught up a lot in the drive to distribute and get widespread the vaccine program, which in your chart is just one of the many possibilities of how you can help at this time, of course, if you're qualified to do so. But it's all about how can I help, and one of the things you need to watch out for is losing sight of your own goals and what's important to you. Once again, that is really coming from your personal life, and there's a lot of room for, through your partner or through other people in your personal life, depending on what it's about, to bring new things that can give you new goals, new aspirations, and new avenues to look for. If you were traveling, I would say this would be a great month for traveling for you. But in any way, to balance out all the helpful stuff you're doing, you've got to be a little bit more think of yourself and think about what interesting new things can I bring into my life so that I don't get swept up in the wave of I'm doing everything for everyone and nothing for me. Scorpio, it looks like you could be dealing with a whole bunch of stuff in your personal life, and you've got to tread very carefully at this time. There are signs of both unexpected, sudden conflict leading to problems in your personal life, and there's also conflict that's been building up for quite a while. It looks like there might have been conflict in recent times, or unexpressed conflicts that are now going to burst out into the open. Knowing that in advance, and especially thinking about what happened last month and whatever's been leading to this, you can find a great strategy to deal with this in a more direct and friendly manner. If there's been stuff that you should have been sharing and should have been putting out into the open in your personal relationships, well, this is the time to be putting those things out into the open and making it happen. So if not, it's also time really to address what you have not been looking at, what you've for yourself swept under the carpet in terms of what might be bothering you about other people in your life or what's going on at home or whatever your exact personal circumstances are. You're holding on to stuff that is becoming a little bit dangerous to your health. It's time to let go of that and also improve all the connections with the people around you. Even business partnerships will improve by laying it bare in a gentle fashion. Sagittarius, you are free and independent. You're very capable of being self-reliant, and all of those things are going to work very well for you at this time. Anything that you really go for in terms of just doing your own thing and sticking to your own way is going to work for you, which sounds great, but what the chart suggests is that during the month of March, you really need to be looking at, is this really my path? It's not necessarily a great big reassessment of your whole life. It could even be operating at a small level, but it looks like you're getting caught up in things which aren't necessarily going to fulfill your own mission, your own path in your life. Nevertheless, your chart does show that you can still benefit from other people's input. Maybe the problem is that you're being a little bit too independent and sticking a little bit too much to your own way and your own path at this time. This is a month about finding the balance between how do I fit in and go along with what's happening around me so that I can contribute and benefit, against I need to be doing my own thing and benefiting from my own stuff, but not getting off my path. It's not an easy one. It's a great time then to be getting new input and new ideas from those that you love, because for the most part you're still going to end up on top by the end of the month. Capricorn, many of the concerns, worries and anxieties of the last few weeks are fading, and you'll find yourself in a better position to look at what do you need to do for your goals. What you might not have gotten around to is restructuring your goals for the year. Now that your birthday is past, you can set up new goals. You can set up altogether new goals. That'll really work well for you at this time as well. And find what you need to do in order to make that happen. It's clear that what you need is not really available to you exactly where you are. You're going to have to find new inputs, new resources, new people to support the new goals in some way, and that could take some time. There's a long arc throughout the year and even into next year in which many of these goals are developing, but this month of March is really time to say, what new knowledge do I need and what new resources do I need in order to create my new goals in some way. It's not yet time to act. You're in the planning stages. Action is coming soon. You want all your ducks in a row before you can get anything to happen, but happen it will. You're going to be on a roll. Aquarius, your birth year might have gotten off to a rocky start. Your birthday month itself was not as fun as what March is going to be about for you, but it looks like things are really getting off the ground. Things that you put in place since your birthday are going to start rolling, but lots of goals that might have been on the back burner, on the side or somewhere else look like they've got the chance to finally happen. It's your going forward in every way, because luck is shining on you during this month of March and for quite a while to come. Luck actually means a little effort goes a long way, so it's not for free, but a little effort brings the help of others. It brings magical results that look like someone is looking over your shoulder, just making it a lot easier for you, but it takes a little bit of cooperation from you in order for that to happen. It's also a great time to set new goals that suit your new ideals that you've been developing over the course of the last month or so. So it's a way to bring other people in instead of trying to change the world, but to get other people to help you change your goals and actually make some of those things happen as well. Because it looks like people from far away, new inputs from far away can really make a difference to how you achieve those goals. Everyone is working for you, Aquarius. Just bring them all together and go for it. Pisces, that old story of boundaries has reared its head again, and it looks like in terms of friends or non-friends or lovers or acquaintances, any combination of those, boundaries need to be put better in place, especially between who is your friend and who isn't your friend, and who's really working with you and who isn't working with you. And just keep the boundaries around yourself and know where you stand and what you've got to do. This could also be an issue of making unnecessary sacrifices. You might feel called to be making sacrifices at this time, but you really need to ask yourself if this is appropriate for you. What does it have to do with you, and how does it benefit you? You might not have thought that sacrifice was supposed to benefit you, but since sacrifice is traditionally to do with our spiritual relationships and how we ask God for things that we can't get from the world, it's clearly meant to benefit you, and other people usually can't provide those benefits. So be harsh, be clear, be a little bit more selfish, and be focused on your own goals, because actually with a little bit of focus, this is a great time to be going ahead. It's like you bogged down in too many people's stuff. The boundaries aren't just about you caught up in their lives, they're just holding back on your life. Shake it all off, go forward, it's your time to get there. Step by step, things could be getting better. Keeping hope, and see you here next week at the usual time.